everyone. We are having technical difficulties on Facebook, so we've decided to do the live on Instagram. Somehow, the internet is not letting us interact at all. There's a lot of echo on the Facebook platform. So we're going to bring Divya here. Just give us a few minutes, and very sorry for the inconvenience. There was an outage since yesterday, and it has not picked up yet properly. So just give us some time. Yeah, just trying to bring Divya now. Hi everyone. Hi. Just give me some time. I'm bringing Divya online. Hi Divya. Better?
Yes.
So sorry.
No, not at all. I'm just wondering how you're going to tell everybody to come here from there.
What we are going to do is, after the chat, we will cross post it everywhere. But yes, some of them are available on Instagram, but most of them are there. So we probably can leave your coordinates later for them to get in touch with you.
No problem.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you. So, welcome again, Divya, and sorry for this little glitch. Extremely sorry. So, as we were talking about this wonderful topic that you've chosen for today, about the journey of babies from the womb to the world. And as we all know, it is just not in the physicality of it, but there are many, many dimensions. Um, can you please share something on that first and set the context, and then we can take, dig further into it?
So thank you for having me here, Divya. This is one of my favorite topics, and not enough has been said about it. But as the Indian subcontinent, as our culture, we do know a lot about it. At least what we think is mythological or philosophical, but we do know a lot about it. And so now I want to talk about the research realm of it, which we talk the scientific realm. And we have now enough evidence, which is now recorded, that says that babies have a very rich intrauterine life, and that is not random. And at every level, it is available. How it's physical in nature, it's emotional in nature, it's spiritual in nature, and it doesn't only start once they are conceived, but there is a certain witness consciousness, if we can appreciate that, or a transcendental consciousness which is available before they choose to manifest in this world, which is so much in line with our spiritual beliefs, with our philosophical beliefs, that it was very interesting for me to actually study it. And Ann McCarthy has written a book on this, Welcoming Consciousness.
Okay.
And she talks about this transcendental consciousness and the self, the bodily consciousness, and then she calls the person an integrated self. Wow. So it's really nice that we're not just talking, in metaphor, but we have research, or we have studies now that show that we are sentient beings from even the beginning, the intention of manifesting.
Wow. Beautiful. That's amazing. So, before we start, Divya, if you can please share what's the world like for the baby in the womb, and what is the environment like, and what is the mother's role? Is it just growing the baby, and what are the different aspects?
Actually, the mother's role is not growing the baby. The growing the baby is a default setting. Right. The baby actually comes into existence with his own little food packet called the yolk sac. So the
Yes.
intention to manifest, because we know that the placenta isn't fully functioning till 12 weeks. So what happens
Okay.
on day 1, day 2, day 3, first week, second week, 8th week? So till 12 weeks, the placenta is not fully online. So the baby carries his own food. So, we are not just offering, so we want to look at our role a little bit more than just growing the baby.
Yes.
We are
Absolutely.
actually, so a lot of pre and perinatal psychology calls the mother as the architect of the baby's brain. And when we say
Okay.
brain, from there we are taking his emotional life, his physical life. So the brain informs the body about how the organs are, what resources are available to who, and it's all about that. But how that brain will ultimately wire, we're really complex people. And our brains are so unique, even though they can be mapped in different areas. How the wiring happens is always a mystery. So the mother
Right.
is actually the architect of that wiring.
Wow.
And so that's a big role, because millions and billions and trillions of neurons are made every minute. And
Right.
that means that at every moment, the baby is pulling in information from the mother. When we
Right.
talk about conscious pregnancy, we talk about conscious conception. What does conscious really mean? Conscious basically means awareness, mindfulness. And we can't expect anybody to be constantly paying attention to the pregnancy.
Right.
But how do we live our lives? What is that quality with which we live our life? Do we pause often enough? We now live in a society where resting is considered to be, I'm not the kind of person who takes a nap in the afternoon. It's looked down upon. But there are
Yeah.
cultures around siesta.
Yeah.
All of Mediterranean does siesta. And they're really healthy people. They're good
Right.
relations. They're strong people. So, we
Right.
have to think. Lots of women will say, oh, I plan to work till the last minute. And I got asked this
Right.
question when I
Right.
when I decided to have a baby. I quit my job. I was a project manager, and my boss says, "Why, you're pregnant?" So I said, "Yeah, I'm planning to be." And he looked at me really strangely and said, "Well, then why go off work now?" I said, "We are project managers. You know how much effort it takes to build a building?" And he said, "Yeah, I mean, it's a 9 to 9 job." I said, "Yeah. And how much do you think it would take to grow a human being?" It's a big project. It's the human project. So I'm not saying that everybody should give up work and sit at home. Everybody can decide. But it is kind of bringing your attention to this idea that you
Yeah.
are actually taking on a human project.
Right. Right.
And so when we do a construction project, because I'm a civil engineer, we take care of the design. The blueprint, we need that from the
Right.
architect. We take care of the
Right.
material. We want to
Right.
put the foundation right. So same thing, the blueprint is our DNA,
Right.
right? It's there, it's gifted to us from nature. Then what is the material we are putting in the first 8 weeks, in which time we are calling this baby inside an embryo. Medically we call
Right.
it an embryo. Only after 12 weeks we say fetus. So an embryo, by the time the pregnancy is 8 weeks, the baby has allocated cells and proportions for every organ, which means foundation is laid.
Right.
And
Right.
then of course you then build up. So you can lay a great foundation and just put a bare minimum on top, or you can have a really fancy structure on top, and you can do the interiors as well as you want to. You can have a very sophisticated intelligence system, AI in it. It's up to you. But
Right.
the interesting thing about babies and the womb environment is that whether you pay attention or not, or whether you put an input or not, the baby is receiving some information. The
Right.
information can be, my parents are inputting or paying attention to me, or the information can be, nobody's around.
Around.
It's still information. And
Right.
that information will then guide that brain structure, which will then give resources to the body. And even though it's a small place, it's dark, it's watery. I mean, if we were to imagine,
Right.
close our eyes and imagine the womb, it's a small place. It's
Right.
watery, which means there's no gravitational pull. You know how you feel buoyant in water?
Yes.
There's movement, and we think it's random movement, but it's an orchestrated movement, because as the hands and feet buds will grow and
Mm-hmm.
they will move, the motor nerves from these will get wired into the central nervous system. So the peripheral nervous system and the central nervous system will come into alignment. And the more
Right.
you move, so the saying about the brain is that neurons that fire together wire together.
Okay. Okay.
When the kids are grown up now, when parents send their children to school, they make them repeat the same thing again, whether it's writing, whether it's reading. Why do we do that? Because we want
Right.
those neurons to fire together over and over and over
Right.
again till it becomes a nice highway.
Right.
When the babies
But
are
Divya,
born,
that's
you have
such an important point.
yeah.
And it's so sad that because of the rat race that we are all kind of in, we actually don't give the due attention to such a big event in anyone's life. And I think this is a point where we should pause and think on how are we taking this event in our lives, how much attention. I think that's a wonderful point you've made today.
So, when the babies are born, so many toys are bought called Baby Einstein, etc. And then you're showing the
Right,
flashcards again and again. What do you think you're doing?
right,
You're
right,
wiring the brain. But
right,
inside, every time you talk to the baby, every time you move, every time
right,
you touch the belly, every time the father speaks, it's the same thing.
right.
Every time you're newborn, you touch, stroke, hold, cuddle. It's the same thing.
Same
So the
thing.
best school that a human can attend is a human school. In
Nice.
relation to the mother, in relation to the family, the father, that's the best school.
Right. Absolutely. So nicely put, Divya. It's just beautiful to even just listen and also realize that this kind of event really needs its due, and take it consciously, and make this something which you are going to give to your baby as a gift for life.
Yeah.
Um, Also, Divya, my second part of my question was, and I do understand that mother's environment is very connected to the baby, right? Um, are there any kind of effects which the baby imbibes? What are the kind of effects that the baby, is looking for or gets from the environment of the mother?
I put it very simply so everybody will understand it. What are the human needs that we have? We want to be wanted. We want to be
Yeah,
loved. We want to be welcomed and appreciated. It's no different. So when
right,
this baby, despite of everything that is going on, feels wanted, loved,
right,
cared for, that in itself is the substratum from where human life can grow.
right,
Everything that you feel when you feel rejected, the baby also feels it,
feels it.
because the mother's emotions are not they are not hidden from the baby. In fact, the baby is privy to the mother's emotion from inside out.
Right,
So,
right.
and I'm not saying that every moment you have to say, oh, I love you. It's not that kind of, but it's
No,
a sense of knowing whether you're
right,
wanted or not. And that is why there's a consciousness, which is, even when it's a single cell, it knows whether it was welcomed or not. Now, lots of people would think that if it's not welcomed, it may not manifest. But the transcendental consciousness might make a decision to take this upon as a challenge. Many babies arrive in this world to teach their parents something. So, a lot of cultures actually look at the baby as a divine form to teach them
right,
some lessons, like a spiritual guru or a mentor or a teacher or a guide. And a lot of women will say,
Right.
you know, if you knew me before I had a child, I was not like this. My child taught me so much.
Yeah, I would be
Right?
one of them.
Yeah. And you know, every idea that you had about yourself might
Yeah.
change.
Yes.
So it's really, really important to say that, you know, it's not about whether you said I love you or not. How did you feel? And even in difficult situations, I know women who are in difficult situations, but they still dig deep and find love for their child. It's that kind of relationship. So they're able to discriminate that. And parents can offer that as a differentiation. Yes, you feel my sadness, but that is my story. You are still wanted. You are still loved. You know, a lot of times we are told when babies are small, don't fight in front of them.
Hmm.
So parents might fight, never fight in front of the child. But don't you think the child knows that there is something going on between them?
Yeah.
The better
Right.
idea is to tell the truth.
Yeah.
That, you know, mommy and daddy are disagreeing on something, rather than hide it, because children can perceive the truth. They just don't have context. And it's true in utero as well. You know, a lot of babies have gone, a lot of adults after regression have gone back and checked. We were in a workshop, and one of the person who didn't know anything about their imprint regressed back to a time where she was being born. And she said that it felt like she wanted to come out, but she wasn't being allowed to come out. So
Oh,
she went back and checked with her mother saying, was I overdue? And she said, yes, how did you know? Because they carry these imprints in their bodies, in their
wow.
psyches. And babies don't have memories like, oh, I remember you said that, Divya. No, they have memories of movement, posture, gesture, and felt sense. So when we do somatic work, we talk about felt sense. How do you feel in your body? Is an indicator and may have an imprint from your prenatal period.
Right.
So when you first look into your mother's eyes and you know nothing about her and nothing about love, and she says, oh my love, I was waiting for you, welcome, I love you, and oh my God, I feel so much love. How do you understand that love? Because you don't know language.
Right.
You
Right.
feel a sensation in your body that you feel like a connection to a memory of that sensation. That's love. But in the rest of your life, when you truly love somebody, it's the same sensation. Whether it's your spouse, whether it's a friend, whether your own child, your grand, you know what
Right.
love feels like. And this isn't the
Right.
Valentine love.
Absolutely.
This is that really primal inner feeling of what love truly means. To
Right.
have felt it, and then each time you feel it, you know, oh, I really love this person because I know that feeling.
Right.
So it's like a blueprint, or
Right.
the lack of it. So people who have not felt it don't understand what love is, no matter how hard somebody tries,
True.
unless they have an intense experience, a healing experience, and they can have it their entire life. So
Right.
when we talk about a lot of people will say, babies are in the womb, what is there to see? Right? And till about 26 weeks, their eyes are closed.
Right.
Yet we find that in utero babies have a lot of REM activity. What is REM activity? It's the movement of your eyes when you dream. So they're looking at images. We don't know what they're looking at, but it's images, which means in their brain, their visual cortex is being developed because there is stimulus, even though they're
Right.
not looking at anything. And then when they're born, their vision is about 8 to 10 inches. Guess why? Because all they want to see is who's holding me.
Okay.
So when you hold a child at arm's length and they look at you, they can see your face. That's all they're interested in. Who's holding me? What do they sound like? How does that feel in my body? That's love. I'm cared for. I'm wanted. And it's a repeat and repeat and repeat till those
Wow.
neurons wire.
Wow. Beautiful.
And then when they drive a car, they can see 3 feet.
Very nice. Amazing. Beautiful, Divya. Beautiful. So, so as you said, and you mentioned that birth is a massive event, but is it an intense event? Would we
Sure it
consider
is.
birth?
So imagine that
Right.
you're walking, you're lifting a whale and walking from a watery world to a world with gravity.
Yeah.
It is an intense event for a woman because her entire body is now moved, shifted gears from expanding and growing the baby. Her uterus is now contracting and pushing the baby out. So it
Right.
is physically a very intense. The hormones that are involved in her bringing this baby out are the very hormones that make her fall in love. So it's a blueprint of nature that is
Right.
preparing her for a relationship. And she may
Right.
have other children. It's intense for her, and she can name it. She has the words for it. She can explain. She can tell her birth story, and she can have other children. But for the baby who's born, it's life or death. Either I will make it to the other side and I'll be alive, or not.
Right.
And it's a
Right.
one-time event.
Yeah.
There's no going back and redoing it and having another experience around it. So it is a very
Right.
intense experience. And I think it's designed by nature for that intensity to spike up the life force and then connect with the mother.
Hmm.
In terms, if you want to look at it in terms of simply hormones and physiology, at the
Yeah.
time the woman's body starts to bear down or bring the baby out, and I'm not calling it pushing very intently, because she doesn't need to push to bring the baby out. The body will bring the baby out, and it is
Right.
fired by adrenaline. And
Okay.
we know that adrenaline has no role in labor because it shuts down labor. But in birth,
Right.
in that stage, it is self-drawn. So are you not surprised that in transition, most women will be negative or irritable? That's a spike. It's nature's way of spiking it. And then
Okay.
what does it give the woman? It gives her that muscular strength to push the baby out.
Right.
On
Right.
the other hand, as it crosses the placenta to the baby is feeling some amount of oxygen deprivation because of the contraction. And so some
Right.
oxygen is less. But that serves as a trigger in his brain. So our brain has an inspiratory reflex to a certain
Hmm.
degree of oxygen in our blood. So it's,
Okay.
that decreased oxygen is actually giving a signal to the brain to breathe as he comes out and touches air. Look at the sophistication of it.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
very thing that we may think is detrimental, hypoxia, less oxygen, but it's a mechanism to kickstart the next one. And as the air touches the baby's mouth, the intracostal muscles release and the baby takes a breath. So the adrenaline has a purpose. It's called because the baby has hypoxia, the internal organs are protected by adrenaline, stress hormone, adrenaline. Wonderful. Now, if you know, when you get a spike of adrenaline, you become really alert.
Yeah.
So the baby comes out really alert
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
ready to connect with the mother.
Right.
And we know all the science now on skin to skin and why
Yes.
it should be done. But what is interesting is, for our safety, we have something called the orienting reflex, which means if we hear a familiar sound or a loud one, depending on whether it's familiar, which is safe, or loud, which is threat, our head orients in that direction to make eye contact, to look at it
Oh.
visually. So when the mother speaks to the baby on the outside, the baby's head orients and then they make eye to eye contact. And if you read a work of Marshall Klaus, who is the father of attachment parenting and all of that, he was looking at a premature nursery, and he said that when we started letting women come in to see the preemie babies in the incubator, they would all bend down and look at the baby like this, and we would wonder what they did. They didn't know. And then later, when they saw healthy newborns with their mothers, they found that a lot of eye to eye connection was. So
Okay.
instinctively, these premature babies, mothers were lining up their eyes with the baby who was lying down. So connections, but these connections are not coming on the outside. Now, say if the baby's eyes are closed and he doesn't have a brain support to
Right.
take visual input, what is he going to
Right.
look in the mother's eye? So that is
Right.
happening in utero,
Right.
like a building block. So
Wow.
we'd say that our in utero experience is a wonderful foundation for our human self in the world.
Wonderful. Yeah. So nicely explained, Divya. And one should, really own one's birth. is what I'm, always thinking. And I always think that most of us in today's world leave the birth to a caregiver or a expert that we are, in contact with, and we leave it to them, and we don't own our birth, right? How can I do that, and what benefits can come out of owning one's birth, and how can one prepare towards that?
Okay, so a lot of people will think that what does it mean to even own your birth? And a lot of times you will hear a birth story where you'd say, then the doctor said it's your risk.
Yeah.
And that's a very popularly used phrase, and it's the
Yeah.
key that unlocks the door to getting all permissions, carte blanche for care providers, right? Take a pause for a moment, and especially if you've had a child. But even if you're in your first or second trimester, take a pause for a moment and say, if you listen to the doctor, whose risk is it? Yours or the doctor's? It's still your risk. That's owning your birth.
Yeah.
Recognizing that no matter what happens, this is my baby and my risk. That's
Yeah.
owning your birth.
Right.
A lot of people say we did what the doctor said because we were
Mm.
afraid of the risk. Now, if
Yeah.
things don't go well, or say the doctor forces you to have an induction or pushes you to a C-section, the
Right.
consequences of that, whose risk is that?
Yeah. It's mine.
So then what other option do you have? Whether you want to or not, it is your birth.
Yeah.
Own it or not.
Yeah.
Suppose I have 500 rupees in my wallet and I throw my wallet away. They're still mine. I may take them or
Yeah.
leave it, but it's still mine,
Correct. Right.
right? And if I leave it to others, they will not own it, and they will not care for it the way you do. In the defense of doctors and other care providers, please check into what their expertise is, because a lot of people say, oh, how can I argue with the doctor? It's their expertise. So let's look at what doctors study. For 5 years, they study pathology of the human body,
Mm-hmm.
right? Then they do some internship looking at sick people, in which there may be a 2-week round in the labor delivery ward. Then they may choose to go into OB/GYN, OB being a small part of GYN. Once they do MD, they are surgeons, they do surgeries, and they're very good at it. They save lives, they're very good at it. You have a complication,
Right.
they're very good at it.
Yeah.
But how many healthy people and healthy births have they ever seen in their life? So who's going
It's
to
a
own
very
that
good
part of
thing.
your birth?
Yeah.
And so there's all this argument about doctors versus midwives. Just check their credentials. Now, if you want to have plumbing done in your house, you are not going to call an electrician. You
Yeah.
might call an electrician to fix your geezer's wiring as a support to the plumber.
Right.
But you're not going to get an electrician to fix your plumbing, are you?
Right.
It's what they're really good at.
Good at.
Right? I also feel that when you take responsibility to some part of your own health, then you and the doctors will become collaborators.
Right.
I mean, just step into their shoes. So if
Right.
they are going to be responsible for each baby who's born, and their premise is save a life, then if the baby and the mother go alive from their hospital, it's a win.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Now, is that what you want for yourself and your baby? You just want to be alive. You're not threatened. So when you
Right.
say that I don't want to just survive, but I want my baby and me to thrive, you are my gatekeeper, who is an expert in catching the problem and working with the problem, but let me do the rest. That's
Right.
owning your birth.
Perfect.
And third most important part, if you don't own your birth, the stress that you feel of outsourcing it will never let you achieve the outcome that you're hoping they are going to give you, because they can't give you. Your doctor cannot breathe for you, your doctor cannot digest for you, your doctor cannot poop for you, and your doctor cannot do a natural birth.
Right.
It's not possible.
Absolutely.
And if they do it, it's not natural.
Yeah, and the it also brings to the point of C-sex, and so it's still on a rise, though all the work that you've been doing and so many others are also doing in this space. There's now a level of awareness that people are coming to. But I think what you said about uh, maybe it can be collaborative. Maybe the goal could be how can we help this woman have a natural birth
We
and
don't have to help
ensure,
her. We don't even have to
yeah,
help her. Can we just stay a little bit natural in us? So I say, if you want to have a normal birth, behave normally.
exactly.
When was the last time you worried and ranted about something and the outcome was favorable without you feeling stress?
Very true. Very true. Very true.
How
Yes.
naturally do you live? If you're doing all kinds of unnatural behaviors to get a natural outcome, that's really strange for me. So as an experiment, especially non-pregnant people can do this, or if you're not yet pregnant, is that you spend a week trying to poop naturally and do everything you can to do it. Think about it, eat stuff, go to the doctor, take medications, eat all kinds of food at all kinds of times, go to a pooping class. Have somebody tell you, oh, I'm feeling pressure. No, wait, it's not the right time, wait for
Yeah.
this. See if your poop stays natural after that.
Yeah, very good point.
Same area, same mechanism.
Right. And I also feel that so one is you have to own your birth and understand what it means to own the birth. Second is keep it as natural and event as possible.
But
And don't,
saying this makes me feel very unnatural. No. Okay, I'm going to tell you, Divya, keep your breathing as natural as possible. What does that mean?
but
When you run,
isn't it sad, Divya, that most of the times, I mean, we are told things absolutely opposite to what natural is.
now, if I tell you
Push.
now, no, now keep your breath as natural as possible, immediately your breath will get short.
Exactly.
Is that natural?
No.
It's an experiment. So how do you explain this? Because we have verbalized it, intellectualized it, medicalized it, made it into parts, bits, and fragments.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's an outcome we have to achieve. Now, if you want to breathe naturally, you pay attention to your posture. You pay attention to your posture. You pay attention to your diet, to your emotions. You can just pay attention to this on a daily basis, become mindful. Your breath will automatically get okay. Right? Let's translate that to pregnancy. You take care of your nutrition, you take care of your posture and your emotions.
Yes.
Leave the rest.
Right.
If you've already taken care of your mind and body, which is food, exercise, emotions, and spirit, then you don't have to achieve natural birth. You'll be surprised that it happens because the design is not interfered with. But I want to do natural birth. This do and natural don't go together. I want to grow
Very
natural
beautifully
plants.
put. And that's going to, make a lot of would-be mothers and mothers also to really think.
Now I did mention a class and I want to put it here. Why do we go to a childbirth class? We don't go to a childbirth class to give birth or learn how to give birth. We go there because the way we are today, it's again owning who you are. We recognize our need for information. Information makes us feel safe, in control.
Right.
We go there to understand that while this can happen on its own, what part can I take care of, which is my emotions, without paying attention to them, naming them. Because the more stressed we are, the baby in the womb is already getting affected.
Right.
Right? Can we, for a moment, unlearn all the outcomes and start to pay attention what is happening right now? Because the baby is taking information right now.
Right.
And if we put every day of mindfulness and owning ourselves and respecting that, we don't have to own the birth. It's there, it's ours. Where is it going to go?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So we are not going to do natural births. We are going to look at the elements that might bring us closer to nature or what makes us healthy.
Perfect.
So healthy is not a pill. You find that you have exercised for 25 years and then 3 months you broke your leg, your muscle tone is gone. It's an everyday input.
Right.
So we can't really say, I want to do natural birth, so I'm doing 100 sports. Or I've done 3 childbirth classes. Good.
Right.
What have you taken from it? Because that's what you take. If I throw it away, somebody gives me and I don't take anything out of it, I don't own it. So you're owning your birth would be, if I've gone to a childbirth class, what have I harvested out of it in terms of me as I am today? Because believe me, your baby chose you for being you.
Yeah.
Very carefully considered you.
Yeah.
And then said, okay, I like her. She suits my purpose. We have a wonderful somatic worker. He's no more, may he rest in peace, John Chitty. And he says that there are 3 fundamental questions that he would talk or speak in his mind as an intention when he met babies and treated them. First, he would say, I know who you are. And the answer is, you're a divine being, a divine consciousness having a worldly experience. I know where you come from. You come from realms beyond the curtain. So I know that. And I know why you are here. You are here to refine your divinity.
Wow.
And you as the mother have been chosen for that purpose. So we like your challenges. Babies like it that you're challenged. But they would even love it that their presence, you are choosing to transform yourself. That doesn't mean you're giving up who you are, because that would be then really not okay. Nobody gives themselves up for another person. That's not okay.
Right.
But you're transforming to be the mother. So the baby's giving you input, which may be a lot of waking up at night, and then in the last month preparing for breastfeedings at night, which could be changing your posture, which could be the smells that don't let you eat the foods you once liked, but the baby wants you to change. So the baby's, you are shaping the baby, but the baby is also shaping you.
Shaping.
It's an interdependence. It's a give and take. It's not a one-sided.
Yeah. Beautiful, Divya. I think it's such a beautiful conversation, and really brings you to question and see things so differently than what we've been conditioned to see. Now, towards the birth being, uh, ca- does do babies also get traumatized by birth? And if they have a traumatic birth, what are the effects on the baby? And can we build buffers to avoid any traumatic birth?
Okay, so before we jump there, we must know, what does trauma mean? Trauma means that your nervous system was not able to deploy strategies of defense in a situation that was either dangerous or felt life-threatening.
Right.
So babies have a sequence to be born. And as long as they stay in that sequence, or they are facilitated in that sequence, they feel safe. Right. Because it's an autopilot. If I know that after 4 hours I will arrive at the station and so will be there to meet me, no trauma.
Right.
But when things happen too quickly, which could be an induction, which could be an augmentation, if they happen too harshly, which could be a physical injury like a ventouse or a forceps or a fundal pressure, if their connection to their mother in terms of them working together is lost. So simple things like a woman gets an internal done, the doctor checks her, then realizes that she's 5 centimeters and decides to break the bag because it will speed up labor. Now this woman's contractions, which are very well in her control, so the hormone interplay was just like ideal. It was just moving, waxing and waning together like a dance, suddenly goes out of whack. And all of a sudden, in moving with the rhythm, she's now totally like, I can't handle this at all.
Yeah.
So that absence of the mother is also traumatic for the baby, because he's
Yeah.
trying to have a conversation, move this way, do this, and now she's
Right.
screaming. What would be the impression of that? All through pregnancy, we're telling women not to take drugs. We're telling them to think of good things, not to get anxious. But in birth, which is the moment of reality for that baby, life and death, there is all this panic. So,
Yeah.
so surprisingly, in 1992, William Emerson wrote a paper on obstetric interventions and psychological effects of it. And he said that 95% of babies are traumatized by birth. That's a huge number. But the saving grace was that majority of them will actually resolve it very quickly by just coming back in the presence of the mother. And I'd like to now put a codicil to it, because in 1992, mothers were pretty chilled and relaxed, but now mothers are very anxious. And it comes into contact with a mother whose nervous system is quite regulated. Because babies don't know how to regulate their nervous system, and they are depending on their parent people, father, mother, or any well-attuned care provider to provide them what is the phenomena is called co-regulation.
Okay.
My sense of safety translates to the baby's sense of safety. And as a mother, you would know the minute you have to go somewhere and you're a little anxious, I'm getting late, the baby will either poop or start crying. And then you'll be late. Because they're sensing anxiety. But they don't have that discernment to say, hey, this is not about me, she's getting late. They're saying, no, something's not right, she's not well. So I'm going to cry louder because I need reassurance that we are safe. So when that mother is regulated, and look at all the protocols we have now, baby-friendly hospitals. I mean, not so much in India, but around the world, is that no separation, because one of the biggest traumas the babies could have could be separation. Everything was fine and now nobody's there. I'm alone. Will I make it? Will I survive? Because I do need my mother for sustenance. I do need my mother to look after me for the rest of my life, at least 25 years, for food, for emotional security, to meet my needs. Basically, my survival is her, and she's not here. So what happens to me now? Try explaining to the baby that, oh, baby, you're being observed in a nursery. And what is really interesting is from premature babies care is that when you put the mother and baby together, which is now called kangaroo mother care, we find that their heart rate, their temperature, their breathing, and their blood sugar stabilizes much faster.
Yeah.
Rocket science?
No.
Just translate it to a 3-week later baby, no?
True, true, true. So there's a lot of change that is still required, I feel, and it's great that you and there are others as well, that you've been so vocal about it, and that's something we would require, because we need to be constantly told that you've got to see things differently, you've got to challenge these paradigms.
Yeah, we do realize that, and with all this lockdown and virtual world happening, we are actually putting up a program that tells you the experience of the baby through conception and birth, and it's called the Sentient Baby. So we have a platform called My Child First, and we're also putting up self-help for birth trauma for women and babies. So there'll be a lot more resources available at My Child
Great.
First.
So I'll take those details and we'll put it up in the comment section, and so that people can take advantage, and it's virtual, so there are no barriers.
There are no barriers. But the way we like to do our virtual work is that there is study at your pace, but there's constant interaction. I really value human interaction.
Nice.
For me, you can't grow a human being without having a tribe of humans around you.
True, true, true. Very true. So great. I think, it was a wonderful discussion, and I'm going to rewatch this and go through this and really, understand again and again. And as the last question, Divya, can you please, on the spiritual side of it, can you dig a little deeper than what you've shared? How is birth a spiritual event?
So to find a connection between a human being and commit your life to somebody like that, to make a choice of bringing a baby into the world and the baby choosing you, has to have a bigger plan. Now, people many times mistake spirituality for religion or whatever their form of divinity is. But spirituality is divinity. That we will see, you know, when we look at babies, they're empathetic, they're compassionate, they're loving. And these, what more do you call spirituality when you go to simply the core of humanity and grow it from there? But not only does the baby get a chance to do it, the baby gives the mother a chance to rebirth herself from the woman she was with her baggage and everything, and take those 9 months to become the woman she chooses to be, the mother she chooses to be. And what more can set her on that spiritual path of self-discovery is that her love for the baby, that unconditional love for the baby. You know, I know we all love our children, but let's be a little discerning. Do we own our children or do we serve them? And the minute you come into service, you will find what is spirituality, is to find like, you know, why am I here? What's the purpose for it? So while you are guiding the physicality of another human being into the world, take an opportunity or receive the gift of them guiding you spiritually into the world. So there's a give and take again. You can be the keepers of that baby till he's 25 or she's 25, and you can protect them, but in turn they show you the core of you. So it is a spiritual journey. And remember, we know now for a fact that they are choosing you. So who is choosing you? Dr. Wayne Dyer had written that, what does the word spirit come from? You know, it comes from being inspired, inspirited spirituality. Just like holistic is wholesome, spiritual is inspired. So be inspired by your child. See what else can be. Question everything you know about yourself. I'm an engineer, I'm an independent woman, finances, everything. What does each of these things mean to you? Does they really belong to you, or was this given to you as a legacy that you had collected as a programming from your society, from your culture, from your family, from your imprints? Be inspired, and that's spirituality.
Awesome. That's such a nice takeaway and the best way to end this chat. Be inspired by your child. Thank you, Divya. It was a wonderful conversation, and thank you once again for joining us. As a last bit from you, would you like to leave any message for the team at PsychK? We've been wanting to promote the artisans and work by karigars, and we're supporting this through all the artisans back in West Bengal, and this is an effort that we've taken, three of us. And is there anything you would like to share, or something that can help us connect spiritually with the work that we are doing?
Be inspired by what can be created with our hands and the beauty of it. So the asymmetrical, the messy, the not perfection of creativity of human hands. I think what more can be spiritual. And I know when karigars used to work, sometimes they pray. So every stitch, every button might be a prayer for the wearer.
Absolutely. Very well said, Divya. Very well said. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure, Divya, having you. And you are an inspiration personally to me. There's so much to learn. There's so much to learn from you. And I wish you all the very best. And I'll take the details from you about the programs that you're launching, and we'll put it up on our pages. And all the viewers, if they want to sign up, please do. It will be a great learning and an introspection as well. Thank you so much, Divya. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you for having me. It was wonderful talking to you.
Thank you. Bye.